Welcome to this unique ceremony. I'm Commander Bob Williamson, Royal Canadian Navy Reserve, retired. I'm your Master of Ceremonies for this service this morning. Let me begin by saying this memorial service is extremely important because it is a rare occasion in Canada when attention is drawn to the role of the naval service during the War of 1812. In 2010, during the centennial of the Canadian Navy, the then Maritime Commander, Admiral McFadden, claimed that Canada suffers from maritime blindness. Understandable since it's such a huge continent. In my opinion, this is particularly true about the War of 1812, where most historians fail to recognize the important role that the Navy played in the defense of Canada and the preservation of our society as it is today. There is no excuse for this obvious omission. For a successful campaign in North America, the Duke of Wellington, 200 years ago, the foremost British authority of that time, made this statement to his subordinate commanders, quote, "The defense of Canada depends upon the cooperation of the Indians and the control of navigation on the lakes." Having set that tone for my address, we will now proceed with the anthems. These anthems will be sung by the operatic tenor Jason Hales.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were still gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? God save our gracious King, long live our noble King. God save the King. Send him victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us. God save the King. Thy choicest gifts in store on him be pleased to pour. Long may he reign. May he defend our laws and ever give us cause to sing with heart and voice. God save the King. Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
We'll now go to the guests who will come forward and speak, and the first invitation is to our mayor for the city of Hamilton, Mayor Bob Pertina. I may point out that Bob has a naval background.
I do.
Served as star before my command, I think.
I did. I played the clarinet for my country with the Star Reserve Band. And I eventually failed because I kept referring to those little round windows on the ship, and they didn't appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, my sea legs have to come back. Distinguished guests, and everyone here, I believe, is a distinguished guest. Ladies and gentlemen, I would particularly cite our guests from the United States and from the British High Commission, Lieutenant Commander Robin Walker, and of course our good friend, the United States Consul General, Mr. Jim Dickmeyer. And of course, I particularly want to thank the Director of the Canadian Coast Guard Fleet Central and Arctic Region, Johnny Leclerc, for enabling this amazing event, as well as our city staff. Michael, you've done such a great job. And I have to say, as the mayor of the city of Hamilton, I can't think of many cities anywhere that have the privilege, the honor, the responsibility of maintaining the stewardship of the men and their ships who lie below us 90 meters down. And I'm touched by that, because these men made a sacrifice to their country, as our soldiers and sailors did, that was a stepping stone on the growth of one of the, I would say, the greatest relationship between any two countries in the world. And remember, we were at war 200 years ago. That war helped to establish the identity of a new country, a country eventually we came to know as Canada. The great one of the great builders of Hamilton was Sir Allan MacNab, and as a teenager, he saw service briefly on one of James Yo's ships. Unfortunately, the good Sir Allan found that he couldn't take sea life very well, so he eventually got off that ship. But it's interesting to note that 50 years or so after the events that we're commemorating today, Sir Allan MacNab was called to England by Queen Victoria to be asked what he felt was needed to protect the young country, not yet a country, from the dangers of the Civil War of the United States, because there were concerns at the time that the Union, with the big army, may once again turn their thoughts to Canada. And so frontline British soldiers were garrisoned in Hamilton, Ontario in the 1860s, based on the danger of that occurring. But something else had happened in the relationship between the two countries since then. Because Robin McKee will tell you of all of the Hamiltonians who served in the Union Army and fought on the side of the Union Army during that Civil War. Eventually, all those issues were put behind us, and we are the two greatest neighboring countries, I would say, anywhere in the world, and I'm proud of that. And I'm proud as the mayor of the city that has custody of the remains of these sailors below us and of their ships. And it's an honor that few cities have and one that I treasure and cherish. One thing I will leave you with is, as we prepare to honor the sailors below us, to try to put ourselves in the mindset of that night. Because having been a sailor and sailed my little 24-footer around these lakes many, many times, I remember one night being anchored off Wapoose Island, and a full gale came up. And you have to understand that these men were sailing in waters very much similar to today, but late into the night and early into the morning, the storm came up. And the worst thing is being on the water in the darkness and especially on the lake, because the waves will batter you from all sides. It's not like a big long swell that you might see in the ocean. And I can remember that night at Wapoose, setting my alarm for every hour to get up and look and see if I could still see the beacon light on the shore, to know that we were still in position and the anchor hadn't failed. Well, they failed that night, and all these men lost their lives. And so as we try to remember the moments that took their lives and the events that led to them being here, we say thank you to all of them for helping to create a chapter that led to the great relationship that we now had, that one between Canada and the United States. So on behalf of the City of Hamilton, welcome to our guests, and thank you all for being here on this most important occasion. Thank you.
Next, we go through a list of greetings from very important people who have joined us today. And the first one would be from the Prime Minister of Canada, who is unable to attend, Robin McKee, who is the Vice Chair of the Hamilton Historical Board and also a friend of David Christopherson. Robin?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Robert McKee, a local historian, and it's a great honor for me today to bring greetings from the Prime Minister. I am pleased to extend my warmest greetings to everyone commemorating the 200th anniversary of the sinking of the American schooners, the Hamilton and the Scourge. The greatest loss of life on the Great Lakes in the War of 1812 did not come about as a result of a military action. No shots were fired. There was no victory or defeat. A sudden squall on August the 8th, 1813 left the men of the Hamilton and Scourge struggling to get out of the water after their ships capsized. 53 of the 72 men aboard that day perished and now lie 90 meters below us in the surface of Lake Ontario, along with the remains of those two vessels. Today we have gathered to remember those who were lost and to celebrate 2 centuries of peace between Canada and the United States. The battles that were fought during the War of 1812 helped to define Canada's destiny as an independent nation in North America. I commend the City of Hamilton, the Hamilton and Scourge National Historic Site, and the Hamilton Civic Museums for providing Canadians with the opportunity to learn more about the key chapter in our history and to take part in activities that pay tribute to our proud military heritage. On behalf of the Government of Canada, I offer my best wishes for a memorial ceremony. Signed, Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Thank you very much. It's a great honor.
Next, we have representation from the British High Commission. Lieutenant Commander Robin Walker, Royal Navy. And it's very appropriate that he be here on this occasion because, believe it or not, he is a Royal Navy clearance diver.
Suzmams, ladies and gentlemen, It's an honour and a privilege to be here today as the representative for both the British High Commission and the Royal Navy on this very special occasion. 2 centuries ago, when a ship left the quayside, there was no guarantee that it would return home again. This was not only due to conflict, but unreliable weather forecasting at the time. For sailors, the fortune of war at sea was often at the mercy of the elements. This was no different for the Scourge or the Hamilton, who would be calmed whilst preparing to face enemy forces. The dice rolled against them, a violent squall struck, and the ships and crew were suddenly sent to their doom by that common enemy to all sailors, the weather. Over the past 200 years, weather predictions improved somewhat, shipbuilding has developed, and the relationship of our nations has gone from strength to strength and continues to do so. As in 1812, when both naval forces faced a common threat from tempestuous weather, our nations have stood shoulder to shoulder facing common enemies. And I personally have recently had the privilege of standing shoulder to shoulder alongside both Canadian and American forces in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Before we continue with the tribute to those who tragically lost their lives, I'd like to leave you with a quote from a fairly famous sailor of that period. As Admiral Lord Nelson once said, "I cannot command the wind nor the waves." Thank you very much.
Finally, the next greeting would come from the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario, who is represented by his aide-de-camp, appropriately in this case, Lieutenant Commander Albert Wong, Royal Canadian Navy.
Good morning. I'm delighted to be here today. I'm Lieutenant Commander Albert Wong, and I'm Chief Aide-de-Camp to the Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. I've come here today on behalf of the Lieutenant Governor and the people of Ontario to pay tribute to 53 brave sailors who gave their lives in the service of their country. The Hamilton and Scourge were not built for battle. They were merchantmen, slow and difficult to maneuver, traits made worse by the weight of guns on their decks. Their purpose was to stand off and bombard land-based targets. But on August the 8th, 1813, they would not get the opportunity to play that role. Before dawn on the day they were to go into action against the Royal Navy, a sudden squall ripped through both fleets and the 2 ships went to the bottom. The majority of the crew on both ships perished. In commemorating the 53 sailors who died here, we also mourn the loss of all who fought bravely on both sides of the War of 1812. For the Americans, the war would reinforce their independence from Britain. For the Canadians, forced into cooperation between the provinces as a matter of defense, it would be the first step towards confederation. As historian Arthur Lower wrote, the War of 1812 is one of the massive foundation stones of modern Canada. When we commemorate the events of the War of 1812, we honor the enduring friendship and we celebrate the richness of our shared history. In the name of the Lieutenant Governor, who represents the Queen in this province, I bring greetings to everyone, and I thank you for including me in today's ceremony.
And now, representing the 53 men that lie below us, the United States Consul General James Dickmeyer.
I imagine you might have some sense of how moved I am. These are my countrymen who are below us, and you all have, as neighbors, friends, have assembled here to honor them today. I am honored to be part of this. I am honored to be with you as we honor their memories and our shared history. The mayor makes a very interesting point in his talk about, we think the War of 1812 was that kind of point of conflict and then we moved on. But there was a great deal of tension between the United States and Canada that extended well into the time of the Civil War, where the Secretary of War of the United States spoke about the next opportunity in which these territories would become part of the United States. There was still not an appreciation in the United States of Canada as a unique country and partner at that time. Canada was on the verge of becoming its own country at that time. Today marks, for me, one of the high points of my time here in Canada. I treasure my time here representing the United States. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all of you assembling here and all of the effort that's gone in over the years to commemorate this place where U.S. sailors lost their lives as they were in a struggle with now our great ally Britain and our great friends and neighbor Canada. Thank you for having me here. It's a great honor.
We wouldn't be here over this memorial site if it weren't for the Coast Guard. And so I'd like to call upon the Director of the Fleet, Canadian Coast Guard Central Arctic Region, Captain Johnny Leclerc.
Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, Commanding Officer Captain Gallant and crew, good morning and thank you for joining us aboard the Canadian Coast Guard ship Griffin for this commemorated event. I am very pleased that the Canadian Coast Guard is able to take part in this milestone event on Lake Ontario, honoring the past and remembering the 55 crew members whose lives were lost at sea from the American schooners Hamilton and Scourge. In 2008 and 2009, the Griffin and her crew placed a series of mooring buoys around the wreck site. These mooring buoys facilitated survey work, and the installation of a vessel contributed to the verification and updating of important archaeological data regarding the sunken schooners and the site in general. Once again, thank you for including us in your celebrations, and we look forward to being a continued presence on the Great Lakes, ensuring that our waterways are safe and secure. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
The province of Ontario plays an important role in this program and our ceremonies, and the Premier of Ontario has sent her well wishes to you today, and I've been asked to read them to you. On behalf of the Government of Ontario, it is an honor to extend greetings to everyone attending this special ceremony commemorating the 200th anniversary of the sinking of the Hamilton and the Scourge. I'm proud to join you in paying tribute to the 53 American sailors who lost their lives in the stormy pre-dawn waters of Lake Ontario on August the 8th, 1813. This is an occasion to reflect solemnly on that tragic loss of life. The brave men who perished within our boundaries during the War of 1812 did so valiantly. In dedicated service to their country, they will never be forgotten. Today's commemorative event, part of the War of 1812 bicentennial, also has a brighter side. As people come together at this National Historic Site, it is a fitting opportunity to celebrate 200 years of peace between Canada and the United States, and the strong bond of friendship we continue to enjoy. Please accept my very best wishes for an inspirational ceremony. Signed, Kathleen Wynne, Premier of Ontario.
Thank you.